I mean, I don't know. I hate to say it, but like I feel like Verstappen is he like you may like him, you may dislike him. I'm kind of on the disliking side, but
Yeah.
he's growing back on me. Like the thing is that he's always a contender. That's the one thing you can take from the guy. Is
Okay.
like the guy is incredible at driving. Like
Yeah.
he's talented as hell.
We're gonna switch the topic. This is gonna be now Verstappen time then,
Well, it's
right?
I wanted to
No,
talk
no,
about like the
no, no.
entire like top of the championship.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
let's do Verstappen here because I want to say something about that.
okay.
I am not a Verstappen fan. Like,
Hmm.
I don't like him all that much as a person. His personality is a little. I think I would clash in him personality wise.
I think
He's
so.
just like
Yeah.
not the type of driver like I gravitate towards. But besides his personality and his driving style in previous years,
Yeah.
the guy's a really good driver. And I think this year, for some reason, I'm liking him more now. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, which is something that you said like a little bit. It's like, oh, he's growing on me a little, and I'm like, strangely, he's growing on me too a little bit. But like, I think the reason is like all the previous years, his driving style is very arrogant, very aggressive. He just
Yeah.
takes people out. He doesn't give room to anybody. He's just like unapologetically like, I'm just gonna stick my car here and then you either move or we crash. And
Yeah.
I really don't like that a driver is allowed to do that and get
Hmm.
away with it. And I think Verstappen just does that over and over again, and that's the way that he's been like winning and making like himself like as a name and building himself up.
Yeah. Up
But
until Formula One, I think that worked for him. Yeah.
yeah, and I think like last year it was like I truly hate this guy like for
Hmm.
the whole Silverstone incident, then him
Hmm.
putting the car on top of Hamilton. Um,
I feel like that was the tipping point for me because I feel like on for that entire season until even in Silverstone, I was like, that was an incident where I thought Hamilton was maybe not in the 100% in the right. But I also thought that like Verstappen just did something foolish. But I wasn't like, oh, Verstappen is a fucking idiot, or like I hate him. It was until the Monza incident where I was just like, dude, this guy hasn't changed. Like, or like he has. When he's driving relaxed, when he's driving normal, like a normal human being, he can go super fast and he's consistent and he's in a good mood. That's when he performs at his best. But then once the pressure started creeping onto him, he became that fucking that dirty driver that
yes,
like
and
he literally
and
like
then
crashed into Hamilton.
we saw it on Monza in Brazil. He literally didn't turn.
Right. In
And
Saudi Arabia,
then
he brake tested.
In Saudi Arabia, he does the brake testing, and then also when like uh, Hamilton like gets the corner like out of the start, Verstappen just puts his car like remember just across
Yeah.
the first turn. I'm like, what is that? Like, who does that? It's
Like
like
that's
he's losing it. Like mentally, he's just
Mhm.
I'm gonna put every trick on the book here, and I'm like, how can you allow a driver to do that?
Yeah.
Also, for Silverstone, regardless of like what happened on the incident, is what happened afterwards that like
Mhm.
upset me with him. Like as a personality, he's saying like, "Oh, Lewis Hamilton is out there celebrating, and like you shouldn't celebrate that way. That's like disrespectful." And I'm like, bro, like the fact that you think that he's celebrating and that he's doing it to taunt you
Yeah.
or to disrespect you is so selfish of you. The guy
Yeah.
is a world champion. He's in his home race. He crashed. They give him a 10-second penalty, and he still came on and won that race. And
Yeah.
in Formula One, it's not like you can say like, "Oh, next year I'll win it again," or "Next year I'll have a chance to win again." It's like no, that could be literally the last time Lewis Hamilton will ever win in his home Grand
In
Prix.
Silverstone, yeah.
Yeah, and he's celebrating and enjoying it, and then you're saying that's disrespectful, and I'm like, how selfish are you?
Right.
Just just let people be people, and you just worry about yourself. But the fact that he thinks that Lewis and everybody should worry also about him, it's like, bro, just shut up. And then like saying you put the car on top of Hamilton in Monza, and then you see him in the car still, like you start spinning the wheel on top of his head. You get out of the car is still on top of Hamilton, and you don't check on him to see if he's okay or anything. You
Right.
just walk away, and I'm like, oh, and that's not disrespectful.
Right. And like the car literally like went over Hamilton's helmet. Like
Yeah.
Hamilton was like this close to like actual death by decapitation from Verstappen. It's like it's kind of crazy to think how like 2 years earlier there wasn't any Halo. You would have killed Hamilton doing that shit. Like you would have actually killed like one of the greatest, if not the greatest driver of all time. And I was just like, and the corner wasn't yours. There's no fucking argument that you can ever give me that will convince me that that was your corner. You were behind before turn one. And then on turn two, you were still behind. And not only you were even more behind, and Hamilton didn't have to yield at all. And you just literally like didn't break. You didn't care about your car. You obviously wanted to crash onto him to take away the points that he would have won in the race, so that like you would stay ahead in the championship. That was literally what happened, and that's like as dirty of a driving as you can ask.
Yeah, and then like he just moves on as like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
and we take for granted like the fact that the Halo saved like Hamilton's life. But what happens if we're fighting for the championship, and that happens, and like we don't have a Halo, and Verstappen kills Hamilton, and then Verstappen goes on to win the championship? Like, is he still seen as like
right?
Like
what are the ethical considerations for that, or
yeah, like
connotations of that?
like we take it for granted that like, oh, but like Hamilton is still, he was fine, and they still get to race later on, and I'm like, yeah, but without the Halo, like, okay,
Right.
the guy kills Hamilton, and then like he wins the championship, and I'm like, are we all okay with that? Like, this guy is a great driver, or at that point do we start judging him and be like, Verstappen, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
So I mean, all of that to say that I'm not a Verstappen fan, you know, but like the fact that
But he's a good driver.
after all of that criticism, for me to be like, oh, he's growing on me as of recently, I feel like it speaks for Verstappen as a driver as to how good he is. I feel like this year, all of the stuff that he went through last year with Hamilton, all of those like crashes and incidents are things that like if he would have just taken it easier, he could have gotten the points, and he probably would have won the championship last year in a way easier manner. He would have just made it so easy. If he would have yielded a little bit in Silverstone and he doesn't crash and goes farther out, he still finishes in the points, and then he can win the championship. If he doesn't put the car on top of Hamilton and Monza, he can still do it. Like, you know, there are just certain parts that like if you just settle for like, okay, this race I just need to, I know that it goes against every racing like pilot, like, you know, like instincts.
Yeah.
But like that's like the level of maturity that you need to get if you want to constantly be at the top. And I think Hamilton has that level, as we talked about, like, hey, I'm behind Gasly for an entire race. I'm not gonna risk it in the wet just because I want to go from 13 to 12. Like, you know, it's like, I don't have the best car. I'm going to keep it as solid as I can.
Exactly.
And then I think that this year, Verstappen is showing a little bit of that. I think like in Bahrain, he went for like the move as well. In Jeddah, he's like playing with Leclerc, and he actually got the best of Leclerc. I think also in Australia, he was kind of settling. He's like, okay, we're on second place. I don't need to do anything crazy. This is just how I need to win the race. Unfortunately, the Red Bull broke down. And I think in this race, it's also like he's just being really solid.
Yep.
We haven't gotten to the point that like maybe he will start doing something dirty. So I don't know if that's fully ironed out of himself, but it doesn't seem to be showing as of yet.
Yeah, I think that's what I was gonna say. It's like, yes, so he's starting to grow on me again a little bit, like you, but like as we get further into the season, and if things do start getting stressful by the end of the season, I'm just afraid that he's just gonna revert back to it. And I like that's the part that I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it's true or not. Like that I don't know if I understand his psyche well enough to understand if he's like being like a deceiving driver in the sense of like, oh, he's so nice when he's doing well, but like his real attitude is like be dirty if he has to, or if he's just like on stressful circumstances, like he just tries everything and like see what the FIA lets him get away with, even though he's not a bad person. Like I don't know. I don't know. So yeah. So my thing with him is still 50-50. But I
Yeah.
don't know. It is. I guess it is a good segue into the next part to talk about
I mean,
him
but
versus Leclerc. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
the other thing, just so you know about Verstappen and how solid he is as a driver. Like, I think the last 35 races that he's finished, right? That he's actually finished the race and that his car hasn't been done. The last 35, he's either finished first or second on every race.
Ah,
So
yeah,
like
that's incredible.
you that's like, I don't know, that's reaching a level of like how solid of a driver can you really be for you
Yeah,
to like do that. Like you have to be a really good driver. Like
right.
there's no denying of how much talent there is in Verstappen. It's just the way
Yeah.
that he drives and his personality. I don't mesh well there.
Yeah. But yeah, but it is a good segue into his battle and the battle with Leclerc.